Right, Fambu Lemuna, good evening and good morning, good evening, good morning, good afternoon. Depends on which part of the world you are. And I want to say thanks to everybody who don't tune in. Can I kindly request, if possible, for let we network for share this program live and direct to everybody. Share, invite others. It is important that we all partake in issues pertaining to our country, exchange ideas, try for remain as objective as possible, create space, give chance to everybody for offer an opinion. Because like I can always say, all man get opinion, and we're entitled for hear their opinion in there. But in between two opposing opinions lies the fact. And the fact can only be borrowed from material that are relevant, such as research and proper and thorough research, which is peer-reviewed by people who are renowned and prominent. Yes, Sister Frances, welcome to the program. And thanks for the music, and welcome to everybody, as I say again. Today, very, very important. Very, very important in the sense that the direction where we continue to go, there are very many of us, if not an entire nation, that get an if and a but. And I shall say I speak for the vast majority of the people of that country when I say we're not satisfied in one way or the other in which the country they go. Before you begin form an opinion on the statement what I just make I say this quickly. Whether not political, whether not social, whether not economical, it get for be one of them things they need. So it not only border on political, okay? It's so much so that those in opposition are not happy, neither is the government of the day happy with the way things they go within people. Ladies and gentlemen, this brings us to today's discussion. And I want to say this because waiting we can't talk today or waiting I expect us to do today for engage sincerely. And they talk about sincere. So hold you fire, hold you ego, put them in check, keep your mind open. Okay? Ladies and gentlemen, following up on his manifesto promise to the people of Sierra Leone when he won the elections of 2018, the current president of the Republic, His Excellency retired Brigadier Julius Maada Bio, during the state opening of the first parliament of the fifth parliament, not the first parliament, that was an error, the opening of the first session, I should have said, and I'm saying it, the opening of the first session of the fifth parliament of the Republic, which occurred, if we can just go back not too long ago, that was on the 10th of May, 2018. That's just over a year ago. He announced the creation of an independent commission for peace and national cohesion, which was to be established by an act of parliament. I'm sure, say, family, we got that loud and clear. The reason why the president made those remarks at a serious and sober function, this is the first session of the fifth parliament of the Republic, was, according to him, I'm paraphrasing now, that during the last 10 years, and it's easy for us to do the maths, during the last 10 years, the building block of national cohesion and the feeling of belonging, okay, of almost all of the citizens of the Republic somehow had crumbled. Either had crumbled or was crumbling. He characterized them by saying that tribalism and divisiveness, for those of us who think that it doesn't exist, this is coming from the president, that it does. The exclusion and the weakening and subversion of the state governing institutions were rife. This then set up the platform for the president to commission a green paper. That's the roadmap. I've been asking for a roadmap. The green paper, which he then asked, which was supposed to be the building block in which a peace and cohesion conference will be formed, which will be enacted by parliament, making it legal, by the way. So, ladies and gentlemen, today I really, really want for us to talk about substance. I really, really want for us to put our differences aside and focus on this. For those of you with your glasses, just like myself, those of you who don't use glasses, I'm sure it's clear enough. This discussion today is going to be bordered on this paper, which was issued by the government of Sierra Leone, which is called the Green Paper. What do I mean by this? Not to talk, then empty talk, then street talk, then we don't get substance. And while we talk about black and white, the pros and the cons, the ifs and the buts, the advantages and disadvantages. I want us to scrutinize this document, look at the essence, look at the intention, and let's see where we are today, ladies and gentlemen. Okay? I use the opportunity once again, having set the premise for today's program, for us to go forward on the basis of the Green Paper. Again, just before we go forward, make I just clean the floor a little bit while I try for, unnerve myself again with the song Be Voted. Okay? Right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the second half of the program. I just laid the premise, which is based on a government document called the Green Paper. The Green Paper, now in the roadmap, it is about a 41-page document, so it's a big document, and I must confess to you that I haven't read everything or every page on the Green Paper, but I've carefully taken some time out to read, and I've done some markings, as you can see, okay? I've highlighted some points that I want for us to discuss, and I will offer my opinion, and I'm looking forward to you offering your opinion. If you feel strongly about the opinion, you can make a note in the chat room by typing and engaging others. You can also pick up the phone and call and engage me and the rest of the audience. The telephone number to call is 077 4010 7250. I repeat, 077 4010 7250. Remember, we are speaking to you from the United Kingdom. So if you are calling from outside of the United Kingdom, especially Europe, don't forget to add the country code 44. I'm looking forward to hearing from all of you. I don't intend to have a monologue, rather. I prefer a dialogue. A monologue is not acceptable on an issue as big and significant as what we're about to talk. So, okay, we don't agree, say, some time ago, keeping to our campaign promise on the corrosiveness of the nature of we politics, the division or the divisiveness, the tribal and ethnocentric way, how we contribute in go. When this current president won the elections in 2018, he then went on to set up something that will be called something relating to peace, a structure relating to peace. But before that peace day, they come, okay, that document relating to that peace where the president envisaged, he decide for commission the green paper, where we set that roadmap day. That green paper they now want to talk about today because that green paper they indicates a conference which has just ended called Bintumani 3. Bintumani 3, by all indication and from what you know from the green paper, derived from 1 and 2. And if you listen to the president in opening statement, the president in opening statement also talk and make mention of Bintumani 2, where in have been president then or head of state then. Okay, it be important for let mention them because it been draw an analogy between the now and then the then when he was head of state regarding this particular topic matter. Yes, Sister Doreen Koroma, welcome to the program. I will put the number up soon. So the president did mention Bintumani 2. Bintumani 2 was when he was head of state of the country, a military young man in charge of the state of affairs, initiating the program where we be then know as Bintumani 2, which have been continuation from Bintumani 1. And all of these get something common. The common denominator for 1, 2, and 3 is peace. Yeah, it's peace, nothing but peace. So having said this, ladies and gentlemen, the president then went on
our brothers, this particular one.
I want to listen, okay? I really want to listen. Una bear with me. And this is quite important because we want to take it step by step. Let's listen to the first minute or 2 or 3 from the president himself. I've got some critical things here to say.
But like I said, ladies and gentlemen,
take a listen.
Please permit me to
That's the President of the Republic, retired Brigadier His Excellency Julius Marabio speaking.
It's nearly 2 pages. And I see here is good morning, but I will say good afternoon. We are gathered here today to take a major step in strengthening our democracy through a consultative conference that will lead to the establishment of an independent Peace and National Cohesion Commission. Between the 15th and 17th of August, 1995, the National Provisional Ruling Council they came from a broad range of backgrounds and interests to discuss the timetable and process leading to the restoration of democratic civilian rule in this country. On the 12th of February 1996, I, as head of state, enjoined Sierra Leoneans to promote peace, development, and stability. I asked every Sierra Leonean to be mindful that we all are our brothers' keepers with one destiny and a common future. I exhorted every Sierra Leonean to work to achieve peace and develop an environment in which democracy could thrive, knowing that the welfare of our citizens is always the supreme law of the land. Following rapprochement with the REF leader, a broad range of stakeholders convened to present their views and expectations and to make informed decisions about the shared direction and destiny of our nation. I believed then, and I still believe today, that providing a space for discussions enable government to hear out the various voices and sentiments of ordinary citizens across the nation. This Bintumani 3
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, most of you will have heard the president speak because I know that a vast majority, if not every one of us, did follow what followed Bintumani 3. I think it was a 3-day peace conference, as the president categorized it, a consultative conference in which the major stakeholders were meant to meet, share their differences, assign their differences, pick up the mantle from there, from where the acts that the president talked about, which will bring forth the further peace conference, in which the Parliament of the Republic will enact a law to bring that into being, was supposed to be formed. This was something formative, this particular peace conference. But what I wanted to highlight here is, first of all, I played the tape because I wanted you to hear it from the president's mouth yourself. He talked about major stakeholders, okay? The conference was meant to be truly representative from all aspects, all sectors, all walks of life of the Sierra Leonean society. But first of all, it was meant to be truly representative of the major stakeholders. Now, listen to the emphasis, major stakeholders. Who will be the major stakeholders? Of course, we know we're not going to go over that. But what I wanted to highlight again is some of the major stakeholders, and very key and significant stakeholders were not present at the meeting. So the conference in itself has left the nation, and I'm positing to you today, you're submitting to you for us to discuss this as a consequence of the outcome of this meeting, in which you heard the president say that major stakeholders were invited or were expected to have been there, because the purpose was to discuss the differences, the corrosive nature of our politics, the tribal and regional and ethnocentric way the country was going, its politics, try to find a common ground and move on. Unfortunately, some of the major stakeholders were not there. So we asked the question, was Bintumani 3 a success or was it a failure? Is it the beginning of bigger things to come? Was it, too costly for a conference? Was the cost worth it? Was it supposed to go on at that particular time, even though we know that the major stakeholders were not going to be present? Could we have postponed it? What did we derive from this just ended conference? What is going to be the way forward in terms of what the president envisioned? Ladies and gentlemen, the phone lines are open and I want an honest discussion. Pick up the phone. I'm going to put a number there soon, but in the meantime, it's 077-4010-7250. And I did highlight that we were going to be talking from a position of strength. In other words, we're going to be discussing government's green paper. First of all, from one school of thought, the green paper is biased. I haven't heard anybody say that, but this is the submission that the green paper is biased. Biased in the sense that it was written by a party that has interest in what was being written from a one-sided point of view. And this, I don't know whether there were many authors, but one of the authors that we know, whose name is borrowed at the very bottom, a very prominent, powerful person in the current government, is the current chief minister in the office of the president, Professor Francis. Professor Francis's submission, his writings, his imprints is all over the green paper. And the fact that this was largely written, I don't see any other names, was largely written by the professor, who is serving at the pleasure of the current president and maintains a very clean, good relationship with the current president, makes this document more questionable. Questionable so much so that I am making the submission, not from my end, but from a general perspective, ladies and gentlemen, because the document is available for your scrutiny. So don't be told. Try to get a copy of the document yourself. You don't have to be a high school graduate. You don't have to be a college graduate. Okay? It's just basic English. Okay? Where you think you can decipher because it's not coded, it's not heavily language, you can ask someone. You don't even need a lawyer to interpret this. Yeah, it's not really a technical document. It's just an outright document for every Sierra Leonean who can read and write to be able to see through the document. Ladies and gentlemen, in part A, the forward, I just want to deal with this. Like I said, I haven't looked at the document inside out, but most of the pages that I've seen, I've made notes. As you can see, the forward written by Professor Francis, okay? It went on to say, and this is where I took the prelude from. According to His Excellency President Bio, in the last 10 years, the building blocks of national cohesion and the feeling of belonging to all citizens have gravely crumbled. This is significant, and I will agree with the President. But then what is being done at the current time, away from the conference, which will have avoided what this conference will have provided, what happened before the commencement of the conference, before this all-important conference. The ground, how much watered was the ground watered? How much water was poured into the ground? I'm not making an analogy to the famous phrase now that the ground dry. What I'm trying to say here, were the stakeholders consulted? Because in issues of this nature, as much as the president described it, and you should hear the president speak, he spoke with strong emphasis. If you should listen more of the tape that I played earlier on of the president. At some points, there was frustration in the voice of the president. Go back and listen. Don't just listen to what I'm saying. And it's clear because he's a human being. If he's trying to make an effort to bring the nation together, and some aspect of society, some sector of society is saying no, then it's going to be frustrating, because if it's not coming together, it's still setting apart. It's going to be frustrating for anybody. And you could hear that expression in the president as he spoke. And when he came to those critical words, you could hear the stress in those particular words. Take your time and listen to the tape, okay? So the exclusion and the weakening and subversion of the state governing institutions were rife. I'm quoting the president. All of what I've just read is in inverted commas. But the question here is, which is the million leons question, is what is being done at this particular time? Because it seems like the president nailed the problem on the head. But what is being done to resolve this very issue which threatens the fabric that holds the nation together, which is fragile, as the president went to describe it, and no one is going to deny that the president is wrong. He is absolutely right. The 4 elections that we've had since we resolved our peace conflict, the nation is still in a fragile state. And the fact that the building blocks of national cohesion is crumbling implies only one thing. It implies that the state is degrading and degrading fast. It implies that the blocks that are holding the nation together, the foundations of the nation together, are crumbling. And when the foundations cannot hold, we know what happens. And I don't intend to say it is dangerous. So the Bintumani 3 conference, I will posit, was necessary, but the timing is what is being questioned by a large sector of our society, because every participant should have been primed to attend this conference. Not just invitation by letter. It is imperative on the side, that now govern, to cajole the other side, to provide incentives even at this earlier stage, because remember, the other side in peace conflicts, to resolve it, which I have not much of a say in it, especially so those that are broker in it, who are experts in it, knows that they have to provide incentives even at this earlier stage. So I dare to ask the question, were any incentives provided? Were any incentives made? Was satisfaction guaranteed? Not 100%, but probably 75% from the other side, that there is an absolute necessity for you to be at this particular conference. Because like one side is saying, and I have to agree, that one side of our political argument, they are saying that we will make this place ungovernable until you meet our demands. It doesn't make it right. But as the government listens. And the government is indeed listening. Because why then would the government call a peace conference if they were not listening? So I posit that the government is listening. What was the approach? I think is the one that is now questionable. Ladies and gentlemen, I also want to put to you, if you critically look at how this process unfolds, I'm talking about the Bintumani 3, you could see that what the green paper outlined, it took a different formation. It actually took a different formation. And that formation could only have been taken because I want to believe that compromises were made at the last minute. Because remember, there were major stakeholders who were meant to have been there. And had they been there, it would have made a major difference. But they were not. Some of the stakeholders were beginning to understand now, because we have the benefit of hindsight. The NGC had a change of heart. I stand to be corrected, but information reaching this desk, the NGC had a change of heart because they were not for, and later on they became for, and was attended by the high-profile leader, Dr. Kande Kole Yumkela, whom we want to talk about later in this program in terms of the proposal that he made. Ladies and gentlemen, let's keep it at the back of our minds that in the forward, they made it clear, the chief minister made it clear that the green paper is only a consultative document which is designed to provide the necessary information upon which the required policy document can be extracted. Remember, a policy document was meant to come from the peace conference which has just finished. Based on the communique, a policy document will be drawn out of it, forwarded to Parliament, Parliament deliberates, get a law on it, and then trash it out, and then we're supposed to go forward from there. But with the shortcomings of Bintumani 3, the question here again is, what is the way forward? Does this then make a ground for Bintumani 4, which is not being ruled out, by the way? Because if Bintumani 3, like a rocket that fizzles out before it reaches its target, then obviously there has to be a follow-up. You have to go back on the drawing board and look at what went wrong. What did I not do right? You know, the usual questions when you are hosting or handling or heading a project, and do better, you know, going forward. And this is what it is. And I'm saying here that because this document fell short of its design, what it set out to do, there's definitely a need for the power brokers, the stakeholders, to find a way to resolve what I have come to believe is a political crisis. When you have a political crisis, the requirements for political crisis is a political solution. But even with a political solution, there has to be a political will. It's a give and take situation. Give and take situation which sometimes, even though it comes with conditions, the conditions will have to be looked into and then considered. But there has to be incentives that has to be provided to those that are asking for it, because she wants a breakthrough. That's why you call for a peace conference. Ladies and gentlemen, we want to now look at the All People's Congress. The absence of the All People's Congress, what was it born out of? Was it just pure determination to upset the balance of power, to continue to embarrass the present government? What really does the APC, All People's Congress Party, hold? I mean, in terms of advantage, to continue to be defiant in the face of the current government? Empathizing for a moment and juxtaposing position for a moment. If the All People's Congress were in power and the SLPP were in opposition, assuming that the SLPP would have been doing what the APC is currently doing, would this have been acceptable? What would have been the consequences? What would have been the action of the party in power? What would have been? Ladies and gentlemen, we all have got something to do with this as a people. And I tell you tonight that we are even more powerful than government. A house standing together will never fall and stands more powerful. I have been saying on my programs for many, many months now that if the people can find the resolve of coming together, forgetting about entrenched politics or the binary politics that we practice, which is either you are for or this one or that one, then we can make a huge difference. If we can be partisans for our parties, but not extreme, but the idea here is we can find common ground at critical times when the sanctity of the state is threatened, such at this particular time. There should be a rational point of thinking between us that it's gone too far, that we have to take a step back and caution the stakeholders. And I'm saying this to the two major parties, if not three, that those of us who are members of these parties should have the courage and the strength to speak truth to power. I repeat, those of us who are members to these major stakeholders in the interest of national peace must be able to speak to these parties when the country, the sanctity of the state, the fabric that holds us together is threatened. There is much more that binds us, that keeps us together as a nation than those, anecdotal evidence or evidences that have been given us, which is tribalism, which I don't believe is anything major. It does exist, but with a different fray. I always say, if ever we had an extreme form of tribalism, we would have fought a tribal war during those crazy moments when we fought over 11 years of civil unrest, because there were politicians on either side of the political aisle who tried to provoke tribal sentiment, but it did not work because there is so much that keeps us together as a people: intermarriages, food, education, religion. So there's much more to it for us. So yes, we can be tribal because we identify ourselves as a sense of belonging somewhere by virtue of the food that we eat or that we share, the way we cook our food, the way we dress, the way we speak. But there's one unity. There is a thread of unity, a gland, a fabric, a thread, a vein that connects us all, which makes us one people, which makes me admire the motto of the Sierra Leone People's Party: one nation, one people. This is so critical, and this at this particular time, this is exactly what we want to see: one nation, one people. Sierra Leoneans, I ask you, whither thou goest, whither goest thou? Once again, like as many times, in the recent past and long before, we stand at a critical crossroad in the history of the country. Critical crossroad. Let us not start pretending that the issues of the country started yesterday when the All People's Congress lost power. Let us not start pretending that the troubles of today started only when the SLPP assumed power. We will be fooling ourselves. That's why we have to dig deep. That's why we have to take a step back. That's why we have to take a space so that we can have a conversation. Ladies and gentlemen, I was saying that the document produced by the Chief Minister, there are many questions in that particular document, because when you go through the green paper, if you are proposing peace, ladies and gentlemen, I dare say,